tragic suicides of two heroes who fought side by side in Iraq before succumbing to the strain of PTSD. Going out on patrol night after night, soldiers Kevin Williams and John Paul Finnigan became brothers in arms, always looking out for each other amid the horrors of combat in Iraq. But after leaving the British Army, they both struggled to recover from the traumas of war. In March this year, Kevin took his own life at the age of 29. John Paul, already tormented by the suicides of 7 other soldiers he knew, was devastated. 3 weeks ago, the 34-year-old father of 3 was found hanging in the garden of his home. Their deaths highlight the plight of veterans struggling to adjust to civilian life. Last week, the Mail on Sunday revealed that former soldiers are now dying through suicide at a faster rate than those who fell in combat during the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. The haunting picture, above right, of Kevin, from Basildon, Essex, and John Paul, from Huyton, Merseyside, was taken in Basra in 2007 on a patrol with Iraqi forces. John Paul's sister Nikki Finnigan, 38, said, "He and Kevin were really good friends. They were in the same platoon and living together in Basra Palace, going out in the combat fields day and night. They were very, very close. He told me there were 8 former soldiers who had taken their lives within 8 months. The last one was Kevin. It started to eat away at him." Kevin, who had been the youngest rifleman to serve in Iraq, had been found hanging in a communal stairwell outside his flat. The veterans had both battled post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, after being discharged from the army and trying to adapt to civilian life. Ms. Finnigan is now demanding that more is done to help veterans with PTSD, echoing the concerns raised by Prince Harry, as reported by this newspaper last week. At least 12 veterans have killed themselves so far this year, 1 every 13 days. Troops in Iraq and Afghanistan were killed in action at a rate of 1 every 14 days between 2001 and 2014. Kevin and John Paul served in Iraq with the 1st Battalion Royal Green Jackets between November 2006 and May 2007. Ms. Finnigan said, "John Paul didn't feel he had any problems when he was in Iraq because he was just running on adrenaline like a robot or a piece of equipment doing what he was told. But there were times when he had to kill. He was trained in first aid and had to help a soldier who was hit in a rocket attack by literally holding his face together." Kevin joined the army aged 16 and flew out to Iraq the day he turned 18, just months after being introduced to the Queen. He was homeless for a time after leaving the army at the age of 22 and was later diagnosed with PTSD. In a documentary, Kevin had said, "Returning to civilian life was a big shock. The skills I learned, especially being in the infantry regiment, were all combat-based, so as civilian life doesn't have any combat, I was pretty much useless. Not too long after coming back from Iraq I just felt sad all the time. I lost a friend out there and I didn't really grieve till I got back." Ms. Finnigan said John Paul, who joined the army in 2005, was also left partly deaf by being close to explosions. He was posted to the family office of his regiment, which had become 2 rifles, and had to deal with injured servicemen and their families, and attend 25 funerals of comrades. He was medically discharged in 2009. Ms. Finnigan, a paramedic who lives in Sweden with her partner and 3 children, said her brother's PTSD just got worse and contributed to the breakdown of his marriage in 2012. He tried to deal with his PTSD by seeing 2 psychiatrists, having counseling, undergoing behavior therapy and taking medication. He had a job in a factory making car seats and lived with fiancée Danielle Miller. But every time another soldier took his own life, it took its toll on him, said Ms. Finnigan. She added, "If anything positive comes from this, I hope those suffering from PTSD get to cut the chains of this illness with the biggest bolt cutters they have and live a full and happy life." A helpline for serving troops suffering from mental health issues is receiving more than 5 calls a day. The 24/7 phone line, launched at the end of February after a campaign by the Mail on Sunday, had received 538 calls by last Sunday. The phone line was given funding by the Ministry of Defense. Sue Freeth, chief executive of Combat Stress, which is operating the helpline, said, "Our call handlers are there to listen and provide serving personnel with confidential advice on how to access the most appropriate mental health services within the military."